we launched the TMI podcast here. Actually, I created it,
Mm.
and it went out live, and it became a big hit.
Mm.
Again, in like 4 to 6 weeks, we went from, there was only over 25 as a lifestyle podcast at the time,
Okay.
and then we launched TMI, and we were like, we have to compete with those guys.
Mhm.
And it became a smash hit. The learning there was that creators are an interesting quantity, in that their approach to business is not always very transparent. So like with those creators, we invested 100% of production to build the show, but they never saw us as a partner or an investor in the show.
Hello, champions. Welcome to another episode of Chapter Champions, where we get to bring you some of the best entrepreneurs, not only here in Kenya, but in Africa as well. Today, we're joined by an amazing individual. He's an architect, a podcast producer, a musician, and the founder and CEO of SemaBOX. And even more previously, he was nominated among the top 40 and under 40 entrepreneurs here in Kenya. So that tells you just how young he is. So welcome to the show, Dan. It's a pleasure to have you.
Asante. It's kind of poetic, eh? Being in a podcast at SemaBOX.
Yeah.
I think I've appeared on maybe one podcast before.
Mhm.
And you're hosting over 400 podcasts.
So
Isn't that ironic?
yeah, man. I guess we've always seen ourselves as the back room, not really the front guys.
Yeah, but you guys do a fantastic job.
Nashukuru.
So for those who don't know, we always film at SemaBOX. And these guys are really good at their craft. So can't wait to learn more about how we got here.
I'm happy to be here, guys. I'm
Yeah,
happy the
karibu.
podcast is also growing. It's huge now.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you. In making this introduction, you've said like 4 things. You know, there's architect, podcast producer, musician, SemaBOX founder, which means entrepreneur. So just tell us who is Dan and how have you reinvented yourself over the years?
You know, it's always a hard question when someone asks you, who are you? I've always thought of myself as a very kind of free-spirited person. And then now so once you see yourself as that, then I've had the opportunity and pleasure and maybe even privilege to now work in different spaces. So, of course, I think my career started mostly in arts. I was always a musician. That was the thing that I did from the heart. But then I was also very interested in design. So when I went to college, I went into architecture, which was, fun. It's nice to look at a totally empty site, conceptualize something there and build it, right? And, architecture is about detail and rigor. So you build every single detail from the foundation to the taps, to picking taps and picking locks, that type of stuff. That stuff was interesting, and I honestly really loved it. But architecture at the end, for me, was too rigid. So I needed to go back to the arts. Especially the way that they regulate the sector, the way that sector operates, for me was just too rigid. Then I had a really bad boss. So nikatoka.
So you did finish architecture and you worked for a firm?
Yeah, I have two degrees in architecture, and then I left and went to work. I worked for 3 different bosses.
Okay.
I had one good boss. I have to be fair to him. That guy was a good boss. But unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of work. So he couldn't afford me
Mm.
after like 3 months. So I basically worked on one project or
Mm.
2 projects. So then the guy was like, man, I can't afford you. I have to shut this down. So then I moved on. And now I worked for another guy who, for me, was a bad boss. Well, it was a father-son combination. The father was a really good boss, really learned a lot from him as an architect,
Yeah.
but the son was a douchebag. And I really
Spoiled.
struggled. Couldn't draw, nothing, terrible architect. I really struggled with him, but now he was a direct boss. So ilikuwa ngumu sana kukaa hapo. So eventually I just walked away from architecture. I never thought of going back. Then I got into tech at that time. So I did a fellowship in the States and I worked for a tech company when I was there. Based on my HTML, CSS that I was doing in college. Now you go there, you start doing kidogo SQL, you know, just database management, report writing, writing views, that type of stuff. And then it was really interesting to be in the States because sababu I was coming to the States with some software skills. Let's not say, I can't say that I was like a software developer, no, but I knew how to, you know,
operate as a developer.
Yeah, I could do some things. I could make a front end. I could do those types of things. And I also came to the States with knowledge of the knowledge you pick up in architecture, which is 3D design, and using all the CAD software. So when I landed in this place, they're like, this dude can actually work with the hardware guys because I have the engineering training, right?
Yeah.
And I know how to work CAD. So of all the PMs that were hired, like, this dude can actually like draw the thing. Once we design it, the guy can model it. We test it. So it became very interesting for me being in that space, Pali. I was using like all
the skills which you garnered over the years.
Right. And so that was a very interesting experience. But then I really got tired of that type of work just because I was far from home. I wanted to be home. So
How long were you there?
Like 2 years more or less there, and then for 4 more years
Back and forth.
back and forth. Yeah, because I now chose to work based here. So I would you go for the meetings, you go for like whatever, then you come back and do your bulk of your work. And it was helpful because a lot of the work that we were working on at that time, so we're deploying these hardware units that were using, it was a box that you could power with solar and a battery, and you could throw up a local area network, and you could basically do data collection and data analysis just for hospitals. And a bunch of those hospitals were in Africa.
I see.
So this was easy for me to just operate here because then I could go to Malawi, do something, go to Niger, do something, Uganda, TZ, and just be here. Better for me. Didn't help that the 2 years nilikuwa state, they had the 2 worst winters in history.
Oh gosh.
So I was also very motivated to just not be there in January. Ile njeve ilikuwa unbelievable.
Then what do you think about this movement? Because I've met a bunch of people who are like, I'm tired of Kenya, I'm tired of Nigeria. I'm tired of South Africa. I just want to go out. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to the US. And some now even Asia, people are going, and Middle East. A lot of people are migrating out in search of greener pastures. What do you think? There are more opportunities there, really?
I don't know if it's more opportunities because I haven't like looked at the numbers. But what I know from my own experience is if you're a very talented person, if you're an extremely talented person, then Kenya will frustrate you. And I think from the little bit I know of Nigeria will frustrate you way more.
For sure, 100%.
Wow.
Those generators will kill your brain. Think about it this way: like you like a person with the skill set that, for instance, I have. So I have tech, I have arc, I have music, and media production.
Multi-talented.
So like if I mean I've been very lucky to learn these things. But then now, what job would you give me in Kenya? So that's the challenge, right? Like if I go to the biggest media house in Kenya and say, hey, I'd like to work here, those guys can't. They can't hire me. Like, see, but that's how wako na CEO, right?
Yes.
So it's not really the job. And I feel like the challenge we have as an African economy or Kenyan economy is that we haven't created enough jobs at the high talent spaces. We haven't created enough there. We are creating mid-level and low.
Yeah.
True.
We're not really creating high talent roles. And it's across sectors. It's not just like media. There's a Kenyan guy whose name I'm forgetting, who did the engineering degree at JKUAT and then ended up working at Tesla.
Charlie.
Oh, Charlie. Yeah. Charlie. Yeah.
So
Very
like
smart guy. Yeah.
engineer went through the same system all of us went through.
Yeah.
Finished the school. He's like, I want to do something with EVs.
And Elon Musk appreciated that talent.
There you go. So there's room
so-
for that skill set there.
Yeah.
There's no room for, like, if that dude comes back home.
What would he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just and I feel like that's the challenge. So a lot of the super talented people are struggling with the idea that there's a glass ceiling, like kuna mali hautavuka unless now you
so
start
true.
teaching. So and of course a lot of them are entering entrepreneurship and they'll do very well there. But even then you can just see the frustration. Even when you speak to like OGs, kina James Mwangi, you listen to them talk, you can hear the frustration. You can hear the frustration in his, because what he thinks of banking, what he could do.
What it could be.
And you'll be surprised, actually, a lot of these big companies, Equity, the banks, they end up recruiting global talent. And I think it's because of exposure. It's not like Kenyans are super smart. They just need the opportunity to work at those high levels. But then there's a disconnect. So
big one. There's a lady called Karen Korir who I've read about on the internet, who won an award as one of the best airport administrators or managers in the world. She was she was a boss of Houston Airport, and she won this industry recognition of like airport manager of the year or something. And Kenyan lady, right? Running one of the busiest airports in the world. And then you think about our airports here and like who runs
Oh
it.
my gosh, yeah,
Like,
it's
man,
Yes.
even if we got that lady to come home, it's the frustration is the best transport engineering guy, professor who helps the London Tube, a Kenyan guy. But again, if he was brought to transport sector, I mean, just think about it. He has to deal with people who unfortunately don't even understand the industry. I mean, today, the government has sworn in the new transport CS, who's an ICT guy. He doesn't know transport. It's a technical space.
That's true.
So these guys, so even policy-wise, if you're talking to the guy about, hey, this is a policy, that guy doesn't know. He's just hoping that that you say something good, because he can't tell you whether the thing is correct or not. And I feel like that's just we have like a permanent challenge in that area. And so I kind of feel for people. So me in summary, I'd say, if you get the chance to go somewhere, go. We will benefit as a country more when you achieve your highest potential. Then you come back. Kuliko we hold you here.
Build, true.
And then you don't get that experience. You don't get that exposure.
You don't get that growth.
Just
Makes
go.
sense.
And like now, in your case, so what are some of the things you picked up here? And you're telling us about how you decided to now settle back in Kenya.
Okay, so first I was based in Boston, which is where the racism is kind of really educated. It's very educated racism. They don't like chase you in the street. But they have,
systems to make sure.
But they have those two very clever racist things. It's very snotty racism. But the thing I did admire about Boston, that working in Boston and living there, what I admired about it was the tempo of work. I had never been in a space, before I went there, I'd never been in a space where the room was full of, everybody was amazing. Everybody in the room was amazing. So the tempo of what was coming out was just so high. And I feel like they also connect the theory stuff and the practical stuff. They connect it very quickly. So I used to see prototypes being sketched in the morning, and we would be 3D printing that thing tomorrow.
Crazy.
Like they would be hey, I think it could look like this. Then there's a sketch, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're modeling this thing the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Kesho, this part is being tested. Like, would it work?
Yeah.
And the company I worked with at that time was testing out a robotic arm, which was we were gonna use for warehousing.
Okay.
And I remember the initial sketches. And right now, those guys got a contract with Amazon, so they are
can imagine.
doing some warehousing stuff.
So
with
it
that.
actually goes to market. It's not
It's
just,
in the market now. Like, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that I wish. I would say it's the strongest thing, that the distance between concept,
Yes,
now
reality.
market testing is very short.
How do you think they make that possible?
Man,
So obviously the talent and education, like MIT and
of course,
all that is there.
Everybody's
So
MIT.
the smart
That's it.
people, right?
Yeah.
But then here, one of the things I realized is the very smart people, once you go into academia and instead of going to the market where you can, how do they bridge that gap in your view?
You know, I don't have a clean answer, but one thing I'll say that I experienced when I was there, and I know I've spoken to people later, there've been some changes, but one thing I did experience was our boss, Deborah, was first of all, she never wanted to be in a meeting where nobody spoke. Yeah, or anyone didn't speak. She wanted the meeting to make sure everybody spoke. And she wanted the meeting to be an argument. Like she wanted it to be like a battle of ideas, right? Like you have an idea, this person has. Let's actually, and there's this idea of we have to get something done today and it has to be better than what we did yesterday. And Debbie also taught me about this thing of just keep moving. Like don't, there was no kukwama. You know, she was, man, whatever problems we have, launch the thing.
Yes.
We'll figure it out.
We're gonna have to keep going, and it'll have to be adapted as we're going. Which I think is it's a philosophy of today we have to achieve something, tomorrow we have to achieve something. So when those things are put together,
they compound.
Yeah, these things compounding. So you're getting prototypes are being built. You know, you're moving. You may not have the perfect product, but your product today is better than you had yesterday. And I feel like it's a leadership thing. I feel like those guys are able to take way more risk than us guys are able to take here. And probably that's because, you know, they are white people, and white people in general can take more risk in life in general. But also the American system just allows for more risk than maybe a Kenyan system.
And failure is accepted.
Exactly. Like, man, Debbie's best moments are when you failed. Like that's when you saw her leadership shine. When like things didn't go well, that's when you really saw how effective a leader she was. And also then I was also lucky that, you know, just above me, between me and Debbie, was a lady called Emily Wang, who is working for Zero Robotics now in China. They make a really nice drone, by the way. You should check it out. It's like palm size. Unbelievable stuff. Yeah, but she was another one who was just like, man, we have to. So it comes down to what you're saying earlier. You need talent, but then there's an appetite for risk that needs to be in
the DNA of the company.
Because taking product to risk to market is the riskiest thing.
Yes, exactly.
You know, you're risking people
Everything that
telling you
could
this thing
go
is
wrong goes
shit,
wrong.
this is nonsense.
Exactly.
And
You
people
know, so
will say it, right? They'll catch a bug, and then they'll say, "Bana, hii kitu."
Yeah.
Which you guys were trying to catch in testing, you never saw.
Yes.
But now that it's out there,
true.
The market
They catch
shows you.
everything.
They catch everything. and you have to have some. Hey, Emily took us to Niger to an army barracks to pitch to an army guy. I don't know if you guys ever gone to a barracks, but if you're going to a Nigerian army barracks, oh my God, it's a whole other experience.
Yeah.
And we're going to pitch this tech idea because the army was like, it's something we could use in our outposts, whatever. Unbelievable experience. Like, it's a story that I'd put in a book. And I'm writing it one day.
Oh gosh. So you're coming back to Kenya with all this knowledge, working with all these insanely talented people from MIT. You're in Boston. I think Boston has like 3 or 4 Ivy League colleges.
Yeah.
So still, why did you decide to come back, and what did you do when you got here?
You know, I always wanted to be home. I have to say, it's a very strong desire to be home. So first I just told them, let me work remotely.
Mhm.
That was my first pitch. Once I'm in the home, I work from there. Which gave me longer hours because now I used to do my day, then I do half of
Mhm.
their day because the 8-hour time difference. But it was really just the stupidity of kupenda home. So I wanted to be here.
Yeah.
And I know it's a daft thing, but me, I loved it. I wanted to be home. So that's why I came back. When I came back, I tried to do some tech things here. And I met some people. I tried to speak to like some guys, Bishop Magua, Bishop Magua
I
crew.
have
Let me not to mention everybody there, but I tried to
Okay.
talk to those guys. And one thing I realized, because now by the time I'm coming back, really, I'm now more a hardware engineer kind of guy.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
because
Those are the skills you develop.
that's really what I'm working on, right? I'm doing integration. So like guys are writing softwares, we're in the Python code trying to help this thing talk to this button and this thing. And that's really the scope of work I'm doing. So when I come back, I'm looking for the hardware guys and trying to talk to some people that were doing things. And I just found that it was very challenging to connect with that side of Kenya at the time. I think maybe it has changed, but at that time it was really difficult to connect. And I think, to be fair, they were also just trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as clear to them as could have been. So I could see them with their two products. I remember seeing the brick and laughing at them. I was like, "Bana, hii kitu yenu, hii iko down."
Okay.
But I was glad that they were trying something, but then there was a lot of donor money, which I
Okay.
think was also clouding the judgment of
Okay.
the engineering. So like donors would say we need something that does X. And now engineers would try and achieve that, but that's not really what the
market wants.
or even the product needs. So you start pivoting this product to go towards this thing because these guys are putting a budget. So you ruin your product. But then what tended to happen is I swapped the Brazilian studios that I used to hang out with in Boston.
Okay.
Those guys, Boston is a big Brazilian community, and like all the studios I used when I was there were mostly those Brazilian guys,
Okay.
Peruvian guys.
Okay.
So I just came back home and then rejoined the music scene too.
Okay.
Safi.
Okay.
Went back to playing, did some theater.
Mhm.
I was in Jesus Christ Superstar
Mhm.
when they held it here. Like just did theater projects, did music projects, and at night I'd write the necessary views for reports.
Okay.
And send them to State Room.
Yeah.
And just kind of kept that going. We had a project in Kilgoris where we were trying to digitize a full district
Okay.
of government clinics.
Mhm.
So that they stop using paper and they go fully
Okay.
paperless. So out of 43 clinics, I got that thing to 37.
Wow.
I
Wow.
was this close.
Wow.
Yeah, and then things just didn't work. So I thought I'd move on.
Mhm.
So then now the ideation of what I wanted to do was to create a space that was slightly different because I had a studio and I was maintaining that, but I wanted to create something different. Because I always thought the idea of everybody having their studio is an interesting idea, but then there's a knowledge gap that doesn't scale.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this is a music studio.
Yeah, what I had initially was a music studio.
Okay.
And we recorded like a couple of podcasts. We didn't record a lot. We had
Okay.
2 podcasts that we were working on.
Mhm.
I didn't really understand what podcasting was, to be honest, at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Emily, my boss, was really big into podcasts, but me, I was like, sielewi hiyo kuongea without music. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But I knew about it,
Mhm.
so when I was back here, I recorded a few,
Mhm.
1 or 2.
Mhm.
The guys used to come every week to record.
Mhm.
Like, okay, iko sawa. But initially, my first idea was Studio Tisa, which
Okay.
was to set up everything fully set up for live performances.
Okay.
So this is like for guys to do virtual performances, especially when COVID hit. So that became the first idea.
Okay. Okay.
So we actually
Okay.
we did a ton of those concerts. Samido, sijui nani nani. We did
I
a lot
see.
of musicians,
Interesting.
which was very interesting. I burnt a lot of my savings doing that because equipment is very expensive, production is very expensive. But what I realized in Studio Tisa was that we had a great product. Got calls from everywhere. BBC guys were calling, asking us, "Hey, how are you guys processing your audio?" Coke
So
Studio
just to
Egypt.
explain that again.
Sijui Coke Studio India.
So Studio Tisa. So if I want to like DJ at an event,
Yeah.
you guys can provide all the equipment.
Yeah. So what we were trying to do was to build, in many ways, like, I guess the easiest thing is like a tiny desk.
Okay.
But with the idea
Mm.
was to be a breaker of the artist. So we wanted to introduce new artists and new acts and new DJs. And the idea was, if we make a virtual gig of this guy, put that on YouTube or on a platform, then guys will find him.
Yes.
Yeah. And then other guys' career can start. So that was the initial thinking. So ended up in a struggle. We did a bunch of younger artists. We struggled. So we started to do like much bigger artists. And so then that idea wasn't really working because of the cost production was just very high.
I see. So this is a cost. I think it's an important lesson here to just acknowledge why something was probably a good idea and didn't really work out. So the cost, what do you mean by the cost wasn't?
Yeah, because I didn't own the studio. So we had to rent the studio for every production. We had to get all the production equipment, backline, instruments, everything, so that the artists would just arrive as themselves. Then in many ways, many of the bigger artists wanted to be paid. So I'd pay the artist. Then I'd have the product, which I could then like
distribute and
or so the model was sponsorships. Would approach Safcom, would approach these guys. We have this show. Give us some money for us to show it. So we sold like 2 to Safcom, but not many. But now the cost of making the product was just very high.
Very high.
Yeah. And then the other part of that was interesting was the market response to us. The market response to us was funny. The artists didn't want to pay for it. They wanted it, but they didn't want to pay for it. Yeah. The corporates were like, I also want it, but I don't necessarily want to pay for that artist, right? I have my own artist that I'm interested in.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then, the third challenge was that the consumers were like, we love this thing, but they're not willing to pay to watch it, right?
I want to watch for free.
I want to watch it for free. So, so we're
interesting triangle.
We're caught in that middle.
Who is the customer?
Yeah. So we had like Studio Tisa lifetime, I think, had like 3 customers.
People who actually paid.
People who actually paid. And 2 of them paid well, but they were foreign organizations. So Music in Africa paid us to produce some artists.
Okay.
All the way from SA.
Wow.
And in terms of viewership, how did that do?
No, the viewership did well. We got millions of views.
Wow.
Yeah. We did it. We did it very, very, very.
Do you think it's an idea that can still scale, knowing what you know now?
It's a hard question, because the other thing that happened in the market is once us guys had kind of introduced an idea, Trace TV went and put all the Trace TV muscle and made Trace live sessions.
My gosh.
Okay.
So now we had a direct competitor. So actually what was happening is we would do Samido on one Friday. So we went and recorded Samido on a Wednesday.
Yes.
Right? Us guys were recording on a Wednesday. We're like, oh, we'll show it in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Gosh.
And then on Thursday, I learned that Trace Live Sessions was going to have Samido on Saturday.
Oh my.
So me, I was like, bro, this content...
It's 10 days before yours comes out.
This content has to go today. So imagine we release the poster for Samido for tomorrow. We're like, Kesho Friday. And then before them, Samido live. So now, because we knew if we are not the first guys out with this thing, we are dead.
Yeah.
So we released it in 2 days. We mixed that thing down in 2 days, like everything, recording, edit.
Yes.
Kila kitu.
Wow.
2 days. It went live that Friday. Trace moved their show by 2 weeks because now we had scooped them.
Nice.
So that was nice. But you see now, like that business, to your question, I don't know if that business is viable unless it's done by somebody like KBC.
Okay.
Yeah, because it has to be done by someone who's interested in the ecosystem, that's interested in breaking new artists, interested in building new artists, and can own a studio. Okay. So KBC maybe the PPMC.
So the costs are lower, much lower.
Correct. Then
Yeah.
it's just
And
for
there's other
artist
wins.
breaking, which is what BBC One Extra kind of does. They have this
Oh,
studio,
BBC One Extra.
you
Yes.
know, you come
yes.
and then guys just make it happen. It's a
Mm.
cultural product more
Mm.
than a business product.
Makes sense.
I
Actually,
think
you're talking about a business product. There's a quote for the people who know YC, Y Combinator. Their motto is normally make something people want.
Mm.
So this product was wanted by people, right?
yeah,
But then there's an extended edition
Mhm.
yeah.
that says make something people want and sell it profitably to many of them in perpetuity.
Mm.
Yeah, so it makes sense. You can have something people
Yeah,
want,
but no
but
honest people.
you
Yeah.
can't sell it profitably. So
exactly.
there's no business.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's no
Mm.
business. I burnt my fingers a lot in Studio Tisa.
Mm.
But also Studio Tisa was the anti to SemaBOX.
Yes. Yes.
Because what we're doing on Studio Tisa, the question became, could we do that for a different art form or a different
Okay.
production form?
Okay.
And
Okay.
then the answer to that was SemaBOX.
Just walk us through that thought process. So, like, did you go back to like guys in a room, you're brainstorming, okay, what do we do this for? Like, is it video? Is it podcast? Is it like, how did you arrive at?
Hey man, you
And
know me,
this
I don't
space?
have the guys in a room by the
I'd love to add to that question
Yeah.
because you mentioned that you weren't understanding this podcast.
No.
Yes,
So I'm very
exactly. So
curious.
when did you understand it?
I wasn't really getting it. So COVID, in between here, Studio Tisa is like COVID. It's a COVID business.
Baby.
So what was happening at COVID and I could see was all the art form production of all the art forms was going down, except for this thing called podcasting. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
The time for
vlogs.
Clubhouse and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was going up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, so I called the two guys that I used to record who had insisted on still recording even during COVID. And so I had to record them in my house because now.
Oh, really? They insisted on recording a
us
podcast
guys
even.
still have record.
Oh gosh.
Now what used to happen is so the two guys in our I've recorded like 2 or 3 years with them. So I was like, okay, these guys can come to the house. But then they kept coming with other guys who also wanted.
Oh my
to
gosh.
record.
I was like,
Interesting.
hey guys, now me I can't have 5 guys in the house. Coincidentally, the Baraza Media Lab had just launched December of 2019.
Okay.
And so we're now talking like March, April of
COVID
2020.
happens, yeah.
COVID has just happened. Baraza. So Christine calls me up and says, hey, there's a conversation I'd like you to be part of. Some podcasters are coming to Baraza. And I mean, Chris and I are very good friends for a long time ago. So I told her, hey, I'm recording some podcasters over here. That's all I'm doing in terms of my art. Then I'm taking walks with my dog, you know? Even though not in my life. So she told me, by the way, there's some podcasters who approached us. And there's a meeting, Kesho at Baraza, please come. And by the way, you're not a Baraza member, considering that you're my friend. I'm like, hey, okay, actually, let's correct all those things. So I came the next day, got my membership. And then, I came the next day, got my membership, and the meeting, I think, was the following day. So then I come that now following day, and there's a meeting here of podcasters. And they're like, they don't know what to do. The industry could be growing, but they don't know. And
interesting. So a problem presents itself, an opportunity.
So Africa Podcast Festival, Melissa was here. Amani Maranga was here who with his podcast. And he came with his producer Lee, who I knew Lee from music. And then I don't remember who else was here, but there's another person. And so I just sat in this conversation and people were like talking about how there isn't production spaces. And me at my house had the opposite problem, where I had people wanting to produce. I have the space and gear, but I don't really want them in my house, right?
Yes.
So it kind of formed there. I was like, I could actually, and Chris asked me, where's your equipment then during the meeting? And I said, my equipment is in a box.
Okay.
So she's like, do you think we could open that equipment, open the box and give these guys equipment? And I said, yeah, let me think about that. But tentatively, yes. So in this room, there was actually 2 boardrooms. This was a double boardroom.
Okay.
And we're having the meeting just right outside here. So, the guys leave. We talk about it a little bit some more. 1 week, 2 weeks. I come back, I'm just working here, and then I meet Maurice. I haven't seen Maurice in a long time. We sit down, tell him, hey, something about this place. Like, man, we have so many requests from a group of people called podcasters, and I'm not really sure what they do. So we are really, and I'm like, even me, I've been dealing with them, and I'm recording them at home. He's like, oh, so I'm like, yeah, even now I'm editing a guy, because I recorded the guy, Jan. It's like, oh, you're actually editing. Yeah, I'm saying, so can you record these guys?
Yeah.
I said, I've been thinking, because I came to this meeting last week and said, yeah, you are in it, yeah. I've really been thinking. So I asked him, okay, would you mind if I came and did the recordings here? He said, we actually have not a lot of traffic because COVID, right? So it doesn't really matter. If you think you can record somewhere here,
just come.
let's give it a shot. So like one day we bring a few guys to record, guys, we go home at 3. Then it's like, why don't we open this to more people? Why don't we just make this available to more people? So Maurice goes and announces that we are going to be doing
Oh gosh.
this thing.
We're going to be recording podcasts at Baraza Media Lab.
Yeah.
The next day we have like 15 people here. And remember, the government says you can't have more than 12 guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have people all over this place. We're really, oh my God, we have to record all these guys before 3.
Yeah.
So that I can go home, right? Coffee's at 7. And then
Wow.
I edit overnight. And, suddenly we're doing it. So we are like 5-7 people every day. It's just happening.
Insane.
But it's free.
Yeah.
Then it starts to disturb us. Like, okay, the volume is high.
Yeah.
We don't really know how to. So we said, okay, just to reduce the volume, let's put a charge. So our initial charge was 2,000 bob per session.
Okay.
Well, let me ask, why were you doing it for free? As done, like why?
To have something to do.
It's COVID
I
time.
had
Otherwise,
nothing to
you'd be
do,
walking
man.
your dog the 4 hours.
I would be walking my dog in the morning. Then it's too hot to walk the dog. Then you come home.
Yeah.
You edit something. You record something.
Serious passion.
But there's nothing to do. So I was coming here literally just to have somewhere to go and something to do. So it got too free for like a couple of weeks. And then now we said, let's put a price so that we can
reduce the numbers.
Yeah.
So you can
But when you
manage.
put the price, it communicated to the audience or the market that we were legit. So the numbers went up. So we actually had more people here. And they were all coming at the same time. So everyone would come at 9. Then we'd have people here till like 3.
Just waiting for a turn to record.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, now we need a solution. We need to schedule guys with a calendar.
Yes.
So now I said, oh my God, I think then let's just try and do this in a more. So we built
Organized
a site.
way. Yes.
We built a site actually on Baraza's site. It was a microsite. So it became, I don't even know how we did it, but it became semabox.barazalab.com.
Yes.
Put a microsite, guys started booking, guys started paying.
Yeah.
The 2K and showing up. Now we had a business. So it was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was challenging because you could pay, but you're paying to like a payment partner who was paying Baraza. So me, I was not getting paid. So there's some problems there for us to solve. And then as we're solving it, we're brainstorming, and now like Maurice and I were here physically a lot together in the whole space. So like, what do we do? So okay, let's start to do a strategy. Let's start thinking about it some more.
Yeah.
Putting some meat on the bones, like what's the service? What do people really want? And Cynthia, who works at Baraza, started to join. She take the phone calls. The phone started ringing a lot.
Wow.
We started now figuring out, okay, what do we do? And as we're solving those problems, we said, you know what? Let's just register
a company.
a company, and let's start to do this more robustly. So we built a site now, separate, SemaBOX.net.
Yeah.
And we killed the microsite. And then we got a call from an NGO. I won't say who, but we got a call. We want to record a podcast 7 series. We're willing to pay 80K. I was like, what?
These guys.
That's the biggest single contract.
Because you were charging 2K.
2K.
Yeah.
Per episode.
Yeah. These guys are coming, they want to pay 80K. So that project went really badly because they came too early for us. It was a very complex project.
Okay.
We were not ready. Didn't have enough gear, didn't have enough knowledge, didn't have enough of a team because I was here alone.
Okay.
And the idea was that I was recording in the day, editing at night. Then Kesho we start again. So now I wasn't even sleeping, which is a big problem for Maurice. It's like, bro, you don't look like you've slept. But I'd be here. Anyway, so then we do that. It doesn't go very well, but we do it. And then we get a second project.
Wow.
Google. Google comes and says, hey,
do you know how long is this from
March?
Guys were coming to your
June.
house to this.
Yeah, it's
how
like,
long?
It's like from March, April to Google is September.
Jeez.
April
It's like
to
3 months.
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Damn.
And Google, and it's just because we had the website and we had so once the website went up, like it made
you become legit. Now people know this is a business.
Because we were on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're really just an Instagram company. Then the site went up and then now the tone of the NCBA Bank were here to check
I
it out.
hope
Like,
the entrepreneurs are listening. How important our website is.
Our website is
like-
actually on that point. There's a time I think it was Icon. You were saying there's a difference between that business that's in CBD, Moy Avenue, versus one you'd find like in Junction Mall or Westgate or like in these malls. And it's just simple things like your business has an heartbeat. So it has an Instagram page, it has a website, it has a customer support line,
a phone
small
number,
things like that. You're
an email.
discoverable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just
Google My Business account.
Exactly.
Big difference.
An address if you never go there.
An address, exactly.
Very big difference. Because that's what drove the tipping point for Google, because they were doing an audio project that was 60 pieces of audio.
Wow.
They needed them done in a week and a half at a lower price point than their agency would give them.
Okay.
But they needed a legit company, right? So when they saw us, like, oh no, these guys are legit. So they just literally walked in and said, hey, we are looking to do something of this kind. Would you guys be able to do it?
Interesting.
So I said, how much would you be willing to spend on it? What's your budget? I said, no, we don't know. Would you guys maybe quote it? We said, okay. So then we quoted, I think it was a region of like 300 or 400K. And said, yeah. Works.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This is approved.
Oh my gosh.
And then now when like actual work started, there were some challenges on their side. And we had to have a meeting, and I told them, you guys need to expand the budget. They said, yeah, sure.
No worries.
So the budget was expanded.
Damn.
I said, oh my gosh. So like we're actually providing, I think the Google project was the first time that we realized, because we're admonished through this whole thing, and it's really stressful for us because we had to build these guys somehow. We didn't know how to build them.
Yeah.
Because you're getting a project, even an account. So you're looking for a
SemaBOX
bank account.
didn't have a bank account.
Oh my gosh.
We got this. So and we hadn't even registered, right? So we're thinking about better to register.
Oh, you hadn't gone through it. Okay.
But it was the first time we realized that we were now providing a service that could be defined and could be priced.
Yes.
And that another person would see as value. Yeah. Because then when we completed the Google project, they were extremely happy with it. And they said, man, we've never gotten a service of this kind this fast.
Nice.
Wow.
That was we're just realizing,
you gave up something.
Seems to me like there's
something.
We now have the makings of a service that maybe we can roll out.
Now, hey, 2 questions, and I'm just trying to check the table as well. We could go on and on. So 2 questions. So like, how did you sort of like productize the service? Like into like, okay, we have these packages, this is what we do. How did you go about that process? And then after that, you can just walk us through, because probably the audience doesn't know. Where are you now in terms of numbers, size, hours recorded? All these things.
So let me start with where we are. SemaBOX is the biggest podcast producer in Africa of the nature. The second biggest producer, I believe, would be either Niger or SA, Volume in SA. And I think there's, I'm forgetting the name of the studio in Nigeria. But really, they're also doing a lot of big numbers. But us guys are well in the thousands in terms of episodes. We are producing a lot of creators, maybe over 600 now that we have worked with. And these are not like small. In SemaBOX, we've launched well over 100 shows, like brand new shows that we've launched.
Including Chapter Champions.
Yeah, including Chapter Champions. Like we've actually become a launch space.
For what were the initial idea.
Yes, which was the initial thing. So thankfully, we've also gotten a lot of people paid because what we've created is a path for people to be paid. And that's something we're also very proud. I think last year we got people 50 to 60K last year. Money that podcasters have earned because we've built the platform that helps them build a community that helps them pitch.
That's USD.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we have single creators who have done 3 or 4 times that. Because the podcast give them the platform to go pitch, and the people that they're pitching to are giving them 20K at a time, 100K at a time. So that's also something we track. People have come here, started podcasts, and become radio presenters.
Wow.
So that's another part of how we calculate. So look, we're happy about where things are, and we're thinking about what's next. Productizing was a very painful process. What I'll say is that I told you that the first NGO, we really didn't serve them well.
Mhm.
And actually, we've given them a credit note. So
Mhm.
they are coming back to do
Mhm.
the season.
Awesome.
Because we just said, listen, it didn't work that time. But it was a lot of trial and error.
Mhm.
We knew that essentially we wanted people to come and get a fully, we needed that people needed to come here and get a technical partner that didn't take them back to anything technical. Yeah, that was clear. But now making like what's a package, that was really trial and error. We tried a few things. We moved from 2K pricing to like 4K pricing, 4-5. Then we realized that, okay, the 4-5 wasn't really working when it was video. We said also realize that the client themselves sometimes didn't know what the technical. So our initial approach was, here are all the technical things, select what you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we
Guys
realized,
are-
man, the
This
client
guy
didn't
does.
care about that.
Yeah.
He actually didn't care. I don't care if it's a camera. I don't care.
They just want to know they'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know the price and I want to know the day that we are delivering.
Yeah.
So now through that, we've learned to now find productizing production has been really challenging. Even now, we're still working on it. We have a price point that we think works, but we find that the more complex the project is, the less our current strategy works.
I see.
So when people have a more complex project, what we are choosing to do is to say, we will price the simpler production products, and then we will leave the complex ones to our negotiation.
Okay.
So that the guy can tell us what exactly they're trying to achieve.
Okay.
And then we can do that. But the
And
lower
those
ones that
are
we have a
edge
clarity.
cases. They're not main.
So they used to be edge cases, but now we're increasingly getting more complex projects. So people want to do podcasting in fundamentally different ways, especially corporate clients. Corporate clients are like, we want a podcast bat, right? So the podcast is like part of other things.
So because podcasting has become so common now, mainstream, that people now are trying to differentiate their podcasts, right?
Yeah, there you go. So
Yeah,
that
it's
complexity is making us think of how we can price. So simple things like, I'll give you one quick example. Sets. When you first 2 years of SemaBOX, nobody cared about the set. Nobody came and told us about anything about the set.
Okay.
Except for NCBA.
Okay.
NCBA came and told us our studio was too small. They needed something much larger for what they wanted to do. So we broke this middle wall, and that's why you have this big studio here.
Oh, wow.
To anticipate that they would give us the work, then they never gave us the work.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you, CBA. Anyway.
Oh, gosh. Now you're in a much better space. Yeah.
But we invested all these, like soundproof glass, all this stuff was done for them. And then they never came through. But they're the only ones in like 1 or 2 years. Then from then on now, everybody's talking about the set. Everybody wants a set that's different from.
Okay.
Well, maybe not everybody, but there's a lot more conversation about sets. And so we're thinking, a set is not really a production cost that's built
Issue.
in. A set is like kind of separate. So we're trying to figure that out. How do we give people some flexibility in sets without loading them with a huge cost? Because a set build can be by itself 100K, right? Before you film. So your average podcaster is not interested in paying the 100K. Even corporates, like, I know we don't want to pay for the set. We will. We just want the podcast. So to go happen, we're trying to figure out what's a good solution for this, and it's just really trial and error. We're failing a lot. I have to say that we're failing a lot in trying to figure out these types of things.
Okay.
Pricing, service packages, sets, but we're also learning a lot through that process. So I feel like we're getting better.
That's
And
very cool.
and like I started from Google. This was 6 months of business. NCBA. So what now? It's maybe 3 years now.
Yeah, we're in year 4.
Year 4. So what can you say is one of the projects you really loved? You learned a lot from, that you can share with us.
Oh, that's a difficult one, because there are a few that I'll say. We launched the TMI podcast here. Actually, I created it, and it went out live, and it became a big hit. Again, in like 4 to 6 weeks, we went from, there was only over 25 as a lifestyle podcast at the time.
Okay.
And then we launched TMI, and we were like, we have to compete with those guys. And it became a smash hit. And it was a learning. The learning there was that creators are are an interesting quantity in that their approach to business is not always very transparent. So like with those creators, we invested 100% of production to build the show, but they never saw us as a partner or an investor in the show. I think they kind of assumed that we were some type of NGO that gives people free productions or something. So the learning there was that we have a lot of work to educate creators on how to be a sustainable business, which means sometimes it's a lot of there needs to be more collaboration and a more transparent collaboration, which when we've worked with subsequent creators, we've been better at communicating from the get-go and also just being more enforcing it more so that we see it as a business. But it's still a podcast that we're proud of and is out there. It's a baby that was made at SemaBOX, so good luck to them. The other thing that we've learned a lot is when we did a podcast for now, like the Mazao Talks podcast, which was an agribusiness podcast with a client who was willing to spend a little more money. And with that, we were able to connect podcasting to social media in a very new way. When we released the Mazao Talks podcast, we released it, I think, in September or maybe October. In January, we had 12 million impressions.
Wow.
Yeah, on that podcast. It was like wildfire. Yeah, we got it. So that taught us a lot how to connect podcasting to social media.
Where the consumers are.
Yes, which
Audience.
helped us to grow even the idea of content that could be niche, because farming content was at the time was very niche stuff. Grow it into mainstream. So I think those two for me, because they were happening around the same time, I'd say were like the biggest jumps in strategy that we made, because we didn't know a lot about things at that time. And so those two really taught us how to make stuff. Along the way now we've gotten better at figuring out more complex shows, like differentiating a show like this that talks about entrepreneurship from a show that may talk about more lifestyle. So along the way we've learned stylistic things of how to differentiate. And that's been taught by every single podcast has taught us something new. Yeah. But if you ask me for the big jumps, I would say the big jumps are those two.
Wow, I see.
Yeah. That's very cool. I think what I've really enjoyed about this show today is we've drawn a lot of lessons from you. You haven't talked much about yourself, but your journey has just taught us so many business lessons, which is what we're all about. That's awesome. As we wrap up, we'd like to ask you, what's your favorite life quote?
My favorite life quote?
Yes.
I have a few that I live with.
Tell us.
So first, I don't know if it's a formal quote attributed to me, but this is a quote that I've always said, that in life and in business, I think you can be good at what you do and you can be popular. You should try to be both. But if you can't, it's better to just be good. Yeah. That's I think that's a Aceda quote, I think, but I'm not sure. I never published anywhere on my Twitter. And then
we promise to publish it.
And then there's the other quote that I've been, kind of living in my head the last 2 or 3 years was, I don't know if that guy was trying to make a quote or it just came out of him. If the money you have cannot solve the problems that
you have,
then eat that money.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one.
It lives in my head.
Oh
I
my
had it on
gosh.
Instagram.
Oh, that's so funny. It's so funny.
And then the last one I picked up from a good friend of mine, Ronnie Osumba. Ronnie, we were chatting to Ronnie about just life. And he told me a story about his family and his old man who back in the village, everybody where we come from is always farming maize.
Okay.
Everybody. You can't convince them not to farm maize.
Okay.
Right? So they'll do it. And so we're just chatting about that. And he was like, my old man has like a feeling. This Ron is speaking. Said the guy has this feeling. He's always talking about how whatever happens to you in life, yeah, you could be rough times, good times, whatever. The guy is always like, he points at the sacks of maize that from Mishamba. He says, no matter what, we've got maize.
Got maize.
Which is really nice metaphor of like there are these minimums that you have to be content with. And us guys are maize guys, so we've got the maize. So now, if life is happening complex in Nairobi or whatever,
we have maize.
Man, pole. But you know what?
We have maize.
We want stuff today.
That's a good one. Oh gosh. Hey.
That's a good.
But me, that's a good one. These my quotes, I'm really into like those philosophical guys. I'm really into it. So I could give you 15.
Oh, those are the three at top of your mind that you've been living by.
Right now, they're really in my head a lot.
Okay. So as we wrap up, maybe you can tell us where to find SemaBOX. First, what's next for SemaBOX? Year 4, what's next, and where can we find you?
So our challenge has been distribution. We've been making a lot of good shows, but we feel like the shows go to the platforms and basically disappear in the ocean of content. So we've just launched a distribution product at SemaBOX. It's called Wazo Podcasts, WAZO Podcasts. It's out now on Android and iOS, which is our own distribution platform. And what we're going for is more visibility for our shows, easier to find our guys, and we're hoping to also track your numbers a little better so that we, and also our hypothesis is also that we will be able to find you the audience in a more, reliable way because we know a lot more about the market we're in. So that's our next, I would say our real future. We're going there to try and also change how distribution works. The second part of that is none of the international platforms are paying podcasts. Okay. So we are hoping to try and find a formula to change that.
Okay.
So that hopefully we can pay. I don't know if we'll pay you millions of shillings, but we are hoping to at least pay you something for the work that you're doing if you can find the audience. So that's part of the things that we're working on. Otherwise, SemaBOX, we are at SemaBOX Africa across most platforms. I think there's an underscore on my Instagram, but otherwise it's at SemaBOX Africa. We are available in Nairobi right now, but we can record you in 6 African countries. So if you need us to record you in Zambia, we can get that done. Okay. If you need it in Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, SA, we can get it done for you there as well. So just reach out to us at semabox.net and we'll try to get you recorded really. Oh, we can also record you, believe it or not, in Haiti.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, we can record people in Haiti, which is by chance connection that happened. But now we can do it, and we're interested in doing it. But so yeah, SemaBOX.net is where we are. We are always open. If you are physically coming, come to Keystone Park. We will be here. Always happy to listen, happy to learn from people. Yeah. And we're looking for the next story.
Right, thanks, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Thanks for having us.
I think I have a question for you guys. So this podcast is obviously Chapter Champions, but Chapter, the company itself, is giving people an interesting new way to do CRM, but also to collect payments. Because there are many other payment platforms and many CRMs, and as a person who's even a customer of Chapter, what's the next new features that you guys are going to give us in the next few?
Oh my gosh.
I like that.
It's a great question. I think we'd even ask, do you have like 5 minutes or an hour?
No, top line. What are we looking
Top
forward
line.
to?
But yeah, I think one of the features we're really excited for is we are launching AI very soon. It's actually in beta. And the reason why is we've seen a lot of sales for many businesses tend to fall through the cracks because maybe the customer support or customer experience official you have is not able to respond fast enough. Or you might have a surge, like you're saying, like you're getting 15 requests a day and you only have one person to handle it. So we are releasing AI on WhatsApp, and then later on in Instagram,
Mm.
so that businesses who have an online presence can be able to really tap into the power of AI to like respond to all these customer queries and help them to convert into sales. So that's one feature we're really excited about, and should be on your dashboard soon.
We want that.
Awesome. Yeah. Because customers ask for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're excited to have it live this month.
Sounds like a life changer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Man, thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time also.
All right.
Thank
Cool,
you,
guys.
man.
You know where to find us. Chapter.co everywhere. And until next time, take care.
All right, thanks, guys. Cheers.
Peace.